This guy turned a neglected factory into a $2 billion foodie powerhouse, and it all started with a piece of junk mail. His name is Hamdi Ulukaya. He's the founder of Chobani. That's the yogurt brand bringing Greek style to the dairy aisle. And this business is so good, it's got me salivating. I'm going to tell you all about it today. So much you can learn. If you're a fan of the show, subscribe, like, comment, so I know to keep making this stuff. Let's do it. So the Chobani story starts all the way back in 2005. Hamdi's busy building his cheese business. He's got a feta cheese business, and things are going okay, but not great. And that's when he spots a flyer in the mail. There's this yogurt plant for sale close by. Kraft is actually selling it off. It's 100 years old, and it's for sale. Now, he's already got a business, but he kind of is curious and interested in what this is all about, so he goes ahead and keeps looking. The price tag is $1 million. Now, Hamdi loves his yogurt, and he knows his way around dairy because of the feta cheese business, so he decides he wants to buy it. Just one problem. He's got to find a milli. Guy needs $1 million. Now, it turns out the government, Uncle Sam, is happy to loan him the money. They'll chip in $900,000. He just has to scrounge up the rest. So that's what he does. He digs and digs. He pulls from his savings. He goes to friends and family. He pulls together $100,000. He gets the factory. Kraft throws him the keys. And now it's time to make some yogurt. It's going to make his dairy dreams come true. Hamdi starts by formulating his recipe. It's going to be Greek style, the kind he grew up eating in Turkey. He just needs to get that taste just right. After 2 grueling years in the kitchen, that's how long it takes him to actually formulate this recipe. The stuff is finally tasting good. Thick and creamy, just a little tangy. He calls this yogurt Chobani, which comes from the Turkish word for shepherd. And now he's got to break into the yogurt aisle. So let's talk about the go-to market. Our dairyman makes some key decisions early on. Number 1, Chobani is going to be mid-priced, in between the American brands and the European brands. A little cheaper, a little more expensive. Chobani is going to be dead center. Number 2, Chobani will be stocked beside other yogurts, not in the gourmet section. That's where a lot of the early retailers and grocers would have thought to put it. Hamdi wants it with the other yogurts. Number 3, Chobani will be sold in a wider cup, signaling that the stuff inside is different. A very important packaging decision that stands out even today. So in 2007, this yogurt lands in a Long Island grocery store, and it sells out fast, almost immediately. They can't keep it on the shelf. Hamdi's hustling to keep the shelf stocked, but it's not easy. Customers are scooping it up right, left, and center. Indie grocers keep banging on his door. And then ShopRite calls. Next, Kroger wants it. Next, Whole Foods wants it. By 2010, just 3 years later, sales surge to $100 million. Chobani is a hit. The only thing more delicious than the yogurt is the marketing. Now, I already told you about the packaging, the pricing, the placement, where he put it in the grocery store, all genius moves. But there's actually a lot more to it. Hamdi and crew didn't spend any serious money on paid advertising until sales were well past $1 billion. You heard that right. Sales reached $1 billion before they dropped any serious money. That was a Super Bowl ad, and I think that was in 2013. They hit $1 billion before they put any serious money into marketing and advertising. Instead, they leaned hard on their customer community. They were very early adopters of social media. Chobani joined Instagram in 2011, just a few months after the app launched. They pushed hard on Facebook, engaging with local shoppers, gaining millions and millions of followers organically. They leaned hard into bloggers and influencers before it was cool. Again, we're talking about like 2007, 8, 9, right? I entered the influencer business in 2014, and I was early to it. I was super early. I can't even imagine what it was like for a brand doing it in 2009. They created myth and magic around the brand with strong stories. People could feel this yogurt was different. Hamdi built a tribe in real life and online, dominating the yogurt aisle, one creamy cup at a time. So I shared this story on my LinkedIn, my TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. Millions of you saw it. And I got to tell you, for the most part, people really like Chobani. They like the brand. Some people were saying that it's not Greek yogurt, it's Turkish, or it's not Turkish, it's Greek. I couldn't really tell, but It is marketed as a Greek yogurt. Some people even said that they remember that first grocery store in Long Island and they were some of the first shoppers. So kind of cool that people go all the way back to the beginning of this brand, which is now a mega blockbuster brand. So I got to just call out the creative thinking of Hamdi. I mean, every step of the way, from spotting the factory with that piece of junk mail to financing the factory, spending 2 years actually making the yogurt, getting it out there with the price point and the packaging and the marketing and all that kind of stuff. Creative thinking as an entrepreneur, as anybody who's responsible for growth, revenue growth, sales growth. I share stories about people who take action. Think about all the videos, all the podcasts I've done. Isaac Oluwafe, Todd Graves at Raising Cane's, Louisa Schneider at Rowan. You just got to do it. These people move, they have ideas, and they take action. And generally speaking, that first action they take is not the winning action, right? Hamdi had a feta cheese factory before he had Chobani. Todd Graves was running a single store of Raising Cane's before it turned into this big national chain. Isaac Oluwafe was fiddling around as a real estate agent before he became a multi-millionaire real estate investor in his early 20s. You've got to take action. You've got to start. You got to understand that even if you're not seeing success right away, you're learning every single day. Think about all those failures you've had, all the ads you've run that have flopped, all the business ideas you've started, whatever you do. If you're a C-suite executive, if you're an entrepreneur, you've got to take action. You can't be afraid, and action leads to learning. Whether you win or fail, we can see that in so many stories. Chobani is a great example. And let's talk about some of the tactics that Hamdi used from a merchandising standpoint to signal that this stuff was different, to have you stand out. I mean, standing out on the grocery store shelf is really, really hard, especially where the cold foods are, in the fridge and the frozen foods. Packaging, pricing, branding. Think about how Hamdi used the intangibles to signal so much about the brand. Now, I know that early on there was also a lot of sampling, but you have to imagine that customers are discovering this product. Maybe they heard about it from a friend, but really they're walking into the store, they're seeing it on the shelf. How are you going to communicate to them right away that this stuff is different? And you might do that via your website, via your ad copy, via your newsletter, your social media, your podcast, whatever you're doing. It's so important to communicate to consumers right away, hey, we are different, we are distinct, here's what we are versus everybody else. When it came to pricing, Hamdi used that strategically. When it came to packaging, he used it brilliantly. Think about that. Just a wider cup, a wider lid. And I got to tell you, when I was researching the story and I read that point, I thought, oh yeah, it is wider than all the other yogurts. Why is that? It's like stumpy and wide. That was a conscious decision, and it signals the stuff inside is different. All those little signals add up to a big difference. And can we just talk about how big this brand got with little to no advertising? I gotta tell you, I talk about this all the time. I talk to clients every day at Influicity, and we talk about customer communities and the power of a customer community. What is it? It's social media, it's podcasts, it's in-store sampling, it's events, it's influencer marketing, it's newsletters, it's blogging, it's SEO. It's all the stuff that you do to create gravity, to create force around your brand so that you just become too hard to ignore. That's what a customer community is. People hear me use the term community sometimes, and they think I use it in like some fuzzy, local, feel-good. Like, I'm not talking about that at all. I want to see you with a community of 1 million people from all over the world who care about your brand. That's what I'm talking about when I say customer community. And if you do it right, you can build a brand worth tens of millions, hundreds of millions, billions of dollars in the case of Hamdi and Chobani. You have to think about how you're using those assets to create a gravitational force around your brand. And I would think about it like that. Think about your brand as gravity, and people who are walking by it or scrolling by it online or browsing by it when they're doing searches just can't help but notice it, because it's everywhere through quantity, through volume, and also through value. The stuff you're putting out there is worth something. And notice, everything I'm talking about now, I'm not suggesting you spend a lot of money. I don't want any of you listening to this, any marketing professionals out there saying, yeah, but Jon, everything you're saying costs money. No, it doesn't have to. It just has to be really good, and you've got to think about volume as well and layering on. So you've got a good podcast? Great. What are you doing on social? What are you doing on search? How are you showing up where the customers care about you? Again, think about Chobani. What were they doing? They were having a presence in the retail store. They were doing sampling. They were early to Instagram. They were early to Facebook. They were early to influencers, early to bloggers. That's a lot of gravity being created around the brand with not a lot of money being spent on marketing. And the last thing that really struck me about this story, and maybe it's the most important takeaway for anybody struggling right now to just find that perfect fit, that product market fit, or that product customer fit, or that customer market fit, or that founder market fit, wherever you are in your journey, certain businesses have a bigger TAM than others for no real reason. And when I say TAM, I'm talking about total addressable market. The total addressable market of Chobani yogurt was just really, really big. When he started this company, it just had a lot of runway, a lot of room to grow, a lot of momentum, a lot of push, a lot of force, a lot of gravity behind it, without explanation. Because we're talking about the same guy here who had a feta cheese factory, and I'm sure was trying to do the same thing with feta cheese earlier, but for whatever reason, it wasn't working with feta. So he moved to yogurt. And the same thing happens in the story of Trader Joe's. Think about Joe Coulomb, who had a convenience store and that wasn't working. So he went to Trader Joe's, changed the concept up. I've told you about that. You can listen to that podcast too. The whole idea here is to think about what is it that you're really good at and what is it that customers really want. And I can't emphasize this enough. Don't look for logic. Don't look for rationale. Don't spend days and months and years arguing with yourself and straining to figure out, I don't understand, if I just do this a little longer, if I just do this a little more. When you find the right fit, it's like a puzzle. It's like a glove. It just works. I've seen it happen over and over again. I've been the guy banging my head against the wall saying, why can't I just get this right? And then I make that one pivot, that one change, and it's like, oof, it worked. And by the way, guys, this is a story of serious bootstrapping. Let's not let that pass us by without noticing. Are you kidding me? $1 million, only 100,000 of it was his? $100,000, 900,000 on loan from the government. This guy builds a multi-billion-dollar business. Wow. Crazy story of Chobani. Let me know what you guys think. Of course, you can get me at jondavids.com. Get on that newsletter. I'll talk to you guys next time.